Thank you. In Greek mythology, Apollo, a scion of Zeus, is observed Eros, otherwise known in Roman mythology as Cupid, shooting his bow and arrows at people, inflicting them with love. This Apollo had just gotten back from defeating the dragon Python and told Eros, these types of weapons of war should be left for the mighty gods like me. This infuriated Eros, and so he shot Apollo with a golden-tipped arrow, inflicting him with love with the beautiful nymph Daphne. He shot Daphne with a lead-tipped arrow, causing her to reject his advances in his love and those of any other suitor. Daphne tried to escape from these advances, eventually pleading with the gods to help her escape, and the gods turned her into a laurel bush, or a laurel tree. Apollo, undeterred, embraced the laurel tree, cut off a branch, turned it into a wreath, and declared laurels to be sacred. This is where during the Pythian Games, the ancient Greeks would award wreaths of laurels to the winners. And thus comes the saying, don't rest upon your laurels, means don't rest upon your past accomplishments and not see the need for constant improvement. I coincidentally was born in Maryland and lived in a city named Laurel until I was about 5 years old. My dad, Laurel was halfway between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, where my dad worked at the Applied Physics Laboratory, National Library of Science. He was not the type that would rest upon his laurels, and so, during my formative years, I got great wisdom from my parents, my father and my mother, and that's where I went to kindergarten. I learned to ride a bike, knocked out my front tooth on the porch, the kinds of things that kids do. So he not content with this job in Washington, D.C., he soon landed a coveted job in Oak Ridge, Tennessee at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, where he could fully utilize his degree in physics. So at the age of 5, I moved to Tennessee, my mind filled with visions of tennis balls floating in the sea. I grew up on a lake. At this time, I was second oldest of 4 brothers, and we just had all kinds of fun, swimming, boating, catching fireflies, jumping off rope swings, and those kind of things. I worked, throughout my high school, I worked at a fast food restaurant. Don't judge me, this is a great job for a teenager. They provide free food. And so that was a very valuable benefit for me at the time. With this fast food money, I saved for a trip to Fiji, New Zealand, and Australia with the art club. Unfortunately, the art teacher quit right as I was, had all this money saved up, and so I did what any kid would do. I went out and bought a Ford Mustang. Fast forward with me about 10 years later, I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. I graduated BYU, got back from my mission, and I'm no longer driving a Ford Mustang, but instead I'm driving a minivan because I'm married with 5 kids. In 2007, after 10 years in Memphis, we decided it was time for a change, and one day my wife announced, I've enrolled the kids in school in Provo, Utah, and they start in 2 weeks. So I rushed out to find a job. I got a job with the State Department of Technology. And 1 year later, after moving to Utah, my grandfather turned 100 years old. He was a state champion broad jumper. He played tennis until he was 100 years old, and he also played scholarship football for what's now known as Utah State. And when he turned 100 years old, he had the opportunity to be inducted into the Century Club by Governor Huntsman, and he went up to state capitol and received an award. I admired that my grandfather was such a hard worker. You know, he was not one to rest upon his laurels, and won this great award. And I thought, you know, one day if I could win an award from the governor, then I could be half as successful as him. So since I've been in Utah, I've learned to love mountain biking, hiking, and running. I've ran several half marathons, some 10Ks, 5Ks, and even a marathon. In 2013, a coworker nominated me for the Governor's Award for Excellence in Leadership and Outstanding Public Service. And I too, just like my grandfather, had the opportunity to go to the state capitol and receive an award from the governor. I'm a recently divorced single father of, got 3 kids at home, aged 12, 13, and 17. My 2 oldest have moved out. Many in my situation would become anger and bitter and fail to progress. Not me. I see my new life as an opportunity to branch out and to learn new things and to improve myself. I've set 10 goals for this year, one of which was to become a better speaker, listener, and leader. And here I am at Toastmasters practicing those skills. Despite the successes that I've had in my career and winning the Governor's Award, I will not slow down. I will not quit. I will not settle, and I will not rest upon my laurels. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you.